Okay. Call this meeting of the Committee on Local Government Finance to order. And the first item on the agenda was type of roll call.
Mr. Levitt,
Here.
Marty, can you hear us?
I couldn't, but I do now. I'm here, obviously.
Perfect. Ms. Yakobin,
Here.
Mr. Szynski,
Here.
Ms. Rackley,
Present.
Mr. Paul Johnson.
I'm here.
We know Mr. McIntosh is out. Mr. Foley,
Here.
Mr. Foley, can you hear us?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Scher,
Here.
Ms. Gamboa,
Here.
you have a quorum.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda, before we do that, let me just mention that item 3A, Incline Village General Improvement District, I'm going to move to after the Reno Sparks Convention and Visitors Authority. So
3D.
so from A to after D, yeah. So we'll move that. And then the rest of them will take in order. Next item on the agenda is public comment.
The room here has public. Anybody on the Zoom who has public comment, please raise your hand or hit *9 if you're on the telephone to be entered into the queue.
Can I sit anywhere?
Okay.
Good morning, Lynette Cardinale, Incline Village resident. I would just like to make a consideration here on comments of Josh Foley that I'm sure were perhaps made in just passing in the last meeting, in chiming in with the notion of citizens being a deterrent of hiring a new audit organization was disturbing and undermining of the purpose of the subcommittee and lends itself to unbecomingly influenced, biased, and indifferent to many in the community. Last time I was here, I expressed that we are not fringe dandruff. We are what is labeled as grassroots. Many of us have been in the community for a long time and have a lot of knowledge and a heart for the community. People we bump into, at least I do in the street, choose not to be present in these meetings or either on social media. However, they share the same concerns as the ones present in the meetings and on social media. They didn't move to Incline and make it their home after having a career elsewhere to be saddled with what we're saddled with now, with an IVGID and the chattering and the demeaning and marginalizing of people that love to be community involved. And so therefore, I would just like to bring that to the attention. We are looking forward to this tax board to make a logical, reasonable, and a just decision on what should be done for IVGID for the prosperity not only of the GID, but of the taxpayers whose trustees that are our money and our taxpayer dollars are in their hands, and it's not used wisely at this point. The trustees now involved have no account in the debacle that the accountability is in, but they do have an account of how to move forward. And so we're asking, I believe, after wanting a fifth extension, that they be put on fiscal watch for the benefit and the solvency of IVGID and the protection of the citizens that pay those taxes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, Chair Levitt and members of the committee. My name is Judith Miller for the record. And I would like the substance of my comments or the written comments to be included in the minutes of the meeting. Like many of you, I've had a long and very fulfilling career in public service, but I never encountered a public agency in such disarray or a fee quite like the one IVGIT imposes, its facility fee. I'm not sure what findings will be presented by the subcommittee, but I hope you'll consider what I and others believe is the underlying cause of IVGIT's operational and financial problems and as a misuse of public funds. The Department of Taxation exists to provide supervision and control of the revenue system of public agencies in the state. This committee is charged with oversight of the local government's revenues, including GIDs. I think you all now understand that IVGIT, because of this unlimited fee, has acquired more assets and business-like enterprises than it is able to properly manage. As these neglected facilities age, costs for maintenance and operations increase, and huge uncommitted fund balances accumulated from years of over-budgeting dwindle. Now the fee must increase significantly. For fiscal year 26, the proposed fee is $1,250. That's a 50% increase over the all-time high of $830 and nearly triple last year's fee. I hope you've seen my chart that I sent a few days ago showing how the proposed fee is much more than the property tax for many of the older, smaller condos in the town center that house our workforce. Rather than ad valorem taxes, in addition to subsidizing operations and paying for maintenance, the facility fee built the pool, the restrooms, and the food service facilities on the beaches. This summer, a 400-unit hotel will be sending tens of thousands of guests to use the IVGIT beaches. Yet incredibly, the hotel only pays the same facility fee as the town center condo. So not only is this imposed non-exchange transaction more like a tax, its lack of proportionality to the benefit derived is quite evident. Because the fee benefits many of the wealthier members of the community, few will speak out against it. My belief that public recreation should place a priority on serving those least able to afford private offerings compels me to try and end this unfair burden on our lower income households. Please consider a recommendation to hold hearings to determine that a severe financial emergency does exist and end the improper facility fee. Help the district find ways to become financially stable and better serve those most in need of public recreation. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Aaron Katz. I'm a resident of Incline Village. I ask the substance of my comments be included in the minutes of the meeting. What we're really dealing here with, in my opinion, is non-compliance with the NRS and the NAC. This is a benchmark for audits. It's a benchmark for budgets, and we have presented evidence of substantial non-compliance. So I'm trying to take a step back. What is the committee? What is the purpose of the committee? What is it can really do here? And I don't know if the committee's aware of a case. It's called Builders Association of North Nevada versus City of Reno, 776 Pacific 2nd, 1234, a 1989 case. That case determined that since the Local Government Budget and Finance Act, which is NRS 354, provides no express private remedy, the only remedy becomes this committee. So the burden falls on the committee to regulate enforcement. And if local government fails to comply, According to the case, you're supposed to notify the Office of the Attorney General, which can then seek judicial writ to compel performance. Here we have evidence of massive noncompliance with the NRS and the NAC. Yet the committee does nothing. And our basic problem, as Judy Miller just indicated, is this rec fee, which is not a fee. It's an invalid tax. And I presented evidence to show you overwhelmingly it's an improper tax. But the committee seems to see its role as providing assistance to IVGIT. In other words, assisting the wrongdoer. And as a result, IVGIT doesn't take the committee seriously. And then members ask, oh, we're surprised you're not taking us seriously. Don't be surprised. Also, I ask you to look at the precedent you're setting for other local governments like the Winnemucca Convention of Visitors Authority, the Reno Sparks Convention of Visitors Authority. What you've said is, well, don't pay attention to the time limits. As long as you're trying in good faith and you're moving towards compliance, that's good enough. In other words, the statutes don't mean anything. No, the statutes mean something. You get to the point, the end is the end. We've passed the end. It's time to take action. Thank you.
Yeah.
Frank Wright. I'm also a resident of Crystal Bay, Incline. We've come together 5 times now, 4 times. And the information I'm going to share with you now is scary. I've asked for public records. In March, I asked for a specific public record, dual billings and multiple duplicate billings and invoices. And I was told that I could wait 2 weeks and I would have them. 2 weeks came and passed. I asked for them again 2 weeks later, a month later. To this date, I still have not gotten those public records. And I keep getting different excuses as to why those public records will not be forthcoming. We have a district that's being looked at by the Committee on Local Government Finance, as well as the Department of Taxation, for being and not producing documents, since their financials are really screwed up, that we can't get public records to verify what we suspect is going on. Why would they be hiding public records? The exact public records that I've been asking for, I was able to document in an internal email between the finance director of Incline, the current general manager at the time. So they exist. They speak about them very clearly in that email. If you're hiding documents, you're not producing public records. How do you have any kind of confidence in what's going on within the reorganization of the finances of Incline? This committee has a job and a duty to make sure that they adhere to what you're asking them to do. A forensic audit identified 42 situations of fraud, possible fraud. Those have to be reconciled, and they have to be brought to this committee and made to the public. Your job should be to make and hold them accountable. 5 extensions. 1 was too many, but 5, they're not going to get their act together, and I'll tell you why. The records don't exist. Documents are missing. Invoices are gone. Bank records are just totally screwed up. And if you allow them to slide again, you're actually becoming part of the problem. You're becoming part of the problem. Put them on fiscal watch. Get somebody in there that will look at this stuff and give up public records. Incline was sued for public records 3 years ago. They lost. They had to pay a lot of money because the public records person was hiding and concealing public documents. They're doing it again. But they're doing it again now for different reasons. They don't want to be embarrassed on just how bad it is. If they don't have the records, there's only one thing they can do, and that is manufacture them. If they're gonna manufacture phony records and give them to you people, that's a huge crime. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Phone number ending in 577, you can unmute yourself.
Yeah, this is Cliff Dobler. I've been a resident of Incline Village for 32 years. I am a retired CPA and have served on the IVGID Audit Committee. I thought I would provide some history of our problems with the financials. In 2015, IVGID management transitioned financial reporting from recreational enterprise funds to governmental funds, which included special revenue, capital project, and debt service funds. They claimed that the Department of Taxation had approved this change. However, no such approval was given. This classification did not adhere to the guidelines set forth under GAAP. The motive behind this conversion appears to be misleading the public. Every year, a facility fee is assessed to all property owners allocated specifically for operations, capital projects, and debt service. Instead of appropriately distributing the amounts into their respective funds, management reported the entire amount in the special revenue fund and transferred only the necessary amounts to the other funds. This practice falsely suggested better operating performance since only a portion of the facility fee designated to capital projects was transferred, resulting in the postponement of several projects. Despite numerous attempts for the existing board to review my 24 reports on accounting irregularities, the reports were ultimately disregarded. With the appointment of a new board in August 2020, Moss Adams, original CPA firm, was engaged to examine 4 issues: capitalization of expenses, the validity of using governmental funds, punch card accounting, and central service cost allocations. Moss Adams found inaccuracies in each case, necessitating modifications to the accounting and reporting practices. IVGID management implemented some changes in a disorganized manner while others were neglected. A new audit committee with an expanded charter was established in 2020 and properly began reviewing various contracts, policies, and historical capitalization issues. From 2020 to 2023, significant prior period adjustments amounting to millions was required, and audit firms identified weak internal controls. The audit committee also deemed donations inappropriate and recommended extensive oversight for the change in accounting software. Both suggestions were ignored. Subsequently, members joined the audit committee, leading to resignation of 2 former trustees, leaving 41 memorandums on accounting issues unresolved. Reuben Brown, a CPA firm, conducted a forensic audit of 41 accounting areas. They found 14 items highly susceptible to fraud. The Department of Taxation requested a report on resolving all items. While a report was given to the Board of Trustees, it may not have been provided to the Department of Taxation. Fiscal year 2023 had a financial disclaimer, and fiscal year 24 is likely to be one as well. We need to have some oversight. Thank you. Good. It was okay.
Unmute yourself.
Hi, good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you for your time. My name is Megan Barth. I'm a resident of Incline Village, and I have been a resident for 10 years. I'd like my comments added to the record. I do not understand as a resident how a government organization such as IVGID can demand additional fees from residents when they do not know how much money they have on the books, since they have not reconciled their books for over 2 years. We have been paying for an auditor, the taxpayers, the parcel owners in Incline Village. The auditors, multiple auditors, have come in over the last 10 years and indicated there is a high degree or likelihood of fraud or fiscal malfeasance. For example, Davis Farr, the auditor, stated they could not issue an opinion on the accuracy of the 2022-2023 financial reports. The auditor again has stated their inability to issue the opinion for the 2023-2024 fiscal year with the audit results not yet complete because IVGID cannot give them reconciled financial documents. IVGID in turn has requested a fifth extension from you, the Department of Taxation, and you have rejected it. How can you approve anything that IVGID does as the Department of Taxation when IVGID can't approve a budget, pass a budget, or reconcile any books for at least 2 years? IVGID submitted a tentative budget to the state by the April 2025 deadline. However, the books have not been reconciled, closed, or audited respectfully, and the auditors have noted continuously over 10 years material weaknesses, the lack of internal controls over financial reporting, and this has been done by numerous auditors. I could go on, but I only have 3 minutes. There is a history here, and where there's smoke, there is fire. And we are simply asking for the state to follow statute, for the Nevada Department of Taxation to finally put an out of control government entity on fiscal watch so that we as parcel owners and taxpayers are protected. Thank you.
Megan, could you please
Yes.
spell your last name for the record?
Yes, ma'am. It's B as in brother, A-R as in Robert, T as in Thomas, H as in Howard. And
Thank you.
Megan, yeah, and Megan is spelled M-E-G-A-N.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If anybody else on the Zoom would like to give public comment, please raise your hand or hit *9 if you're on the telephone. I don't see anybody else.
Okay, thank you. Next item on the agenda, Baker Water and Sewer General Improvement District.
For the record, we have Department of Taxation employee Lynn Lukex. She is budget analyst and oversees White Pine as well as Baker Water and Sewer.
Good morning. For the record, my name is Lynn Lukacs, budget analyst assigned to Baker Water and Sewer GID. As noted in department letters dated 2/27/24 and 1/15/25 for fiscal year 25 and 26 exemptions respectively, Baker Water and Sewer GID was granted exemptions from certain filings to include filing an audit report for fiscal year 24 and fiscal year 25. During a review of the district's fiscal year 24 financial statements, the department noted that fiscal year 24 expenditure actuals totaled $376,340 and thus exceeded the $300,000 limit of the exemption. The department communicated this to the department via email on 2/20/25 and that a fiscal year 24 audit report is now needed. Through emails and calls with the district that followed, the department was informed by the district that this amount greater than the limit occurred due to an emergency repair from aging, failing infrastructure. Additional details are in the district's request for waiver, to include the district stating that the cost of conducting an external audit would create a severe financial hardship on our general improvement district and negatively impact our operational stability, which could put us into a situation of receivership as defined in NRS 318. In addition, supportive information submitted with a waiver, see page 14, notes the district receiving a funding contract of $1.7 million to be spent in 2025, a reserve from SRF, State Revolving Fund, of $2.5 million to be spent in 2026 and 2027, and another reserve of $2.3 million from SRF to be spent in 2026 and 2027. Please note that the department did not receive the above information regarding monies from SRF until 4/7/25. From this information, the district's expected expenditures through year 2027 will be greater than the 300,000 limit. Thus, fiscal year 25 and fiscal year 26 exemptions are no longer applicable as the criteria of NRS 354.475 is no longer met. Available today from Baker Water and Sewer GID to answer any questions are Terry Stedman, Treasurer, and Rowena Leonard, Vice Chairman.
Christina, can you please see if they're available on, I believe they're on via Zoom.
Are you go ahead and speak? Rowena, Leonard, if you are on the Zoom, if you could raise your hands.
I'm sorry, I can't hear the question. This is Terry Stedman with Baker Water and Sewer.
Hi, Terry. I was just letting you know you can unmute yourself and you are free to speak. And Rowena, you are good to go as well.
Well, we're dealing with a situation that our facility here is over 30 years old. And in order to comply with regulations within the Safe Drinking Water Act and the Nevada Bureau of Water Pollution Control, we're basically in a situation where our plant is failing here. And the only way we can serve our customers safe, clean drinking water is to make those repairs as well as bring our infrastructure up to date.
Problem we have is does not relate to you maintaining your infrastructure, but the fact that this additional money has put you over the limit on
Yes.
by you would have to have a requirement to file these additional reports. And I don't know how much leeway we even have as it relates to the statute requiring audits and these other documents when you go over that limit. That's the problem. We don't have any objection, of course, to you maintaining your infrastructure.
Well, we are an economically challenged community. The cost of an external audit could be in the neighborhood of over $30,000 for a community that only has 104 service connections and a population of under 200. And that would wipe out almost half of what's in our checking account that we use to pay our routine recurring expenses for systems operation and maintenance.
Yes.
The other interesting thing, the source of the monies is coming from the state revolving fund. They also have a monetary limit, and their monetary limit is $750,000. And so there's a rather huge disparity between the NRS and the Federal Code of Regulations. Let me reference it here. It's 2 CFR Section 200 sets that limit of 750,000. And then it's to the discretion of the division as to whether they want to call for an external audit. It's not, and in all the years we've been here, our system's over 30 years old. We've never been required to conduct an external audit.
Just ask, does the statute have any leeway?
No.
Kelly, as it relates to,
The statute doesn't. NRS 354.475 basically states that if the local government entity spends expenditures less than 300,000, then they can request the exemption. And in the past, as Terry Stedman has stated, that's what they've been able to do. But because they've received some grants not only for 24 where they were slightly over the 300,000, I think it was 326,000. For 24, for 25, they're also going to be over by over $1 million. And then 26 as well. It looks like 26 and 27, they have over 2.1 million. So there's nothing in the statute that would allow for that discretion. You know, it's just they can apply for an exemption in the event that they're under 300,000, and we can provide them a contingent approval. But if at the end of that year they've spent over 300,000, they have to produce an audit. I would I ask other members. I disagree with the 30,000 cost. It might cost as much as 10. I believe Baker Water and Sewer only has 1 or 2 funds. So, you know, they're not asking for a lot of audit for that, but because they haven't had one, they would have to look at that. And I don't believe that they've even tried to see if they can budget one or, you know, contract with a local accountant.
I think it's fairly obvious that if we were to somehow or other grant you exemption from conducting the audit, we would then be in violation of Nevada revised statutes, which really you cannot do. And so I think you need to look at try to find, arrange to have an audit, or you're going to be in violation of the statute too. I don't think there's any other, I don't see any other good alternative for you. Tom, did you have a comment you'd like to make?
I just had a question. Is part of the grant application, given that, you know, the organization is claiming that this is a new expense for them, could they try to make the audit expense part of their grant? That way they can get access to funding so that they can comply with the NRS. Again, I don't know their grant situation, so just thought that might be a worthwhile question.
I believe that's something we'd have to refer back to the Office of Financial Assistance under NDEP and the State Revolving Fund.
Mr. Chair, can I ask a question?
Go ahead.
Did they require you to take a look at, do a rate study? It looked like your rates did go up a little bit in FY '24, but it really looks like your user fees isn't sufficient to operate your system.
Well, we're in the process of actually setting up a public hearing to increase our rates. It's been 7 or 8 years since our last rate increase. And I'm sure everybody is aware that the cost of everything, materials, labor, transportation, has gone up dramatically over the last 3 or 4 years. Just a comment also with the state revolving fund, all monies that are received and all expenditures that are made are processed through the Nevada Infrastructure Financial System. And that does have a built-in audit algorithm to ensure that there's no fraud going on.
I would recommend starting with them and to see if they would cover the costs of your audit and reach out. And then even if they won't reach out to your county commissioners that you're at and ask for maybe some financial assistance to do this. Because I too am concerned if we waive this requirement, we would be in violation of the law. Thank you. No further question.
Marty?
Mr. Chairman, and to the folks from the Baker GID, I'm almost positive that there is a portion of the SRF funds that can go for project costs. And so, again, I think like Gina just said, I think if you reach out to Jason and his folks at the state and explain that this audit is a requirement, is now required because of this project, that you could make an argument that this cost would be associated with the project, and hopefully they'd be able to fit that in, within that grant that you got from the SRF. And if Jason, Mr. Chairman, if you're okay with this, If Jason or his people have any questions, you could direct them to call me. I've worked with them for years, and I could explain the situation and hopefully, get something worked out with them.
Thank you, Marty.
Mr. Chair. If I may just remind anyone who is speaking to state their name for the record before speaking, it'll help us address the recording in the minutes.
Thank you.
Sorry, that was Marty Johnson for the record.
Thank you so much, including those who are testifying from the Baker General. Thank you.
Yeah, this is Terry Stedman. I'm the treasurer for Baker Water and Sewer General Improvement District.
Any other comments or questions?
Well,
I think one
this is
thing
Terry.
is pretty
Yeah,
well.
I'm
Go
sorry,
ahead.
this is Terry Stedman again, Baker Water and Sewer. I appreciate some of the suggestions, recommendations. It looks like we are going to have to take this back to Jason Cooper and his staff to see how we can acquire the funding to get this external audit conducted. And also the recommendation that we possibly approach White Pine County Board of Commissioners. But that one, they're going through budget problems themselves right now. I don't see them as a potential source, but I think the state revolving fund might be the best option.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I think it's been established fairly obviously that we cannot do anything here today that would relieve you of your obligation to do these things. And so I think now you need to look at some of these alternatives that have been suggested by members of the committee. Any other comments or questions before we leave this item? Let's go on to the next item, the Winnemucca Convention and Visitors Authority. Before we begin this item, come on up. Just a couple of comments I would like to make. It seems like to me that we have had in recent times more problems as it relates to the request for extensions on audits. And I would like to put on the next agenda a discussion about some recommendations that we might make as a committee to the Department of Taxation as it relates to these extension requests. We have a situation where we're getting extension requests now for the audit for the 2024 and June 30th, 2024 fiscal year, when they already have had to submit a budget, tentative budget at least, for the 2026 fiscal year. And so we are dealing with audit budget submissions when we don't have a complete closure on a 2-year previous audit. And so I think we need to come up with some ideas to maybe, and I'm not sure what would be, but maybe say that if you request for audit extensions beyond at least the date for the submittal of the tentative budget will not be accepted. But anyway, I think I'd like to have that on the committee agenda for the next meeting. And we can also discuss the problem. You could conceivably have a problem where it's beyond the control of local government, where the auditor themselves is unable to devote the time or whatever necessary for it. And we could consider that also when we have our discussion. But I just thought I would make the committee aware of that. I would like to put that on the agenda for the next meeting to see if we could resolve this problem that we seem to be getting increasingly amounts of. Go ahead now.
Hey, my name is Carrie Gransberry, and I'm the budget analyst assigned to Humboldt County with the Department of Taxation. Today, we have two representatives representing Winnemucca Convention and Visitors Authority to discuss and review the 23-24 audit findings, as well as the failure to provide a timely second extension request for audit extension pursuant to NRS 354-624. As you will note in your handouts, the Winnemucca Convention and Visitors Authority requested an audit extension on November 19th, 2024. The department gave an extension until December 30th for the submission to its governing body and until January 31st, 2025 to have the audit report to the department. I reached out to Mr. Swenson via email on February 14th as the audit was not received, nor had I heard from him. I did not receive a response and gave Mr. Swenson a follow-up telephone call on February 26th. Mr. Swenson apologized and stated that he should have requested, he knew he should have requested that second extension. However, he didn't feel he would it would be awarded to him, so he didn't. Mr. Swenson is no stranger to this board and is very familiar with the local government practices and procedures. I told him there would be a good chance that due to his disregard for our laws and procedures, he would be invited to the Committee on Local Government Finance. He agreed that this is what he expected and sent a second request for extension on February 26th, as I requested. The department gave Mr. Swenson a second extension of until February 26th to submit the audit to its governing body and until March 20th to submit the audit to the department. The audit was hand-delivered timely. A compliance letter from the department was sent on March 28th, noting that this was not a timely second extension. There was no timely second extension requested. This will ultimately result in a violation, which should be added to next year's audit findings. Mr. Kendall Swenson, administrator to the Winnemucca Convention and Visitors Authority, is here in person with Brian Stone, chairman of the advisory board of Winnemucca Convention and Visitors, being available on Zoom to answer any questions you may have.
Just a couple of comments. One, about a couple of years ago, when I mentioned this to Carrie when
Could
she,
you state your name for the record?
Kendall Swenson from Winnemucca Convention Center. When Carrie called me, got a hold of me and let me know that the audit was over its first extension, I knew that. But I had been told 2 years or 3 years ago, I can't remember what, that there were no extensions after the first extension. And so I didn't file anything because I was told there was no extensions available after the first extension. It wasn't only after our conversation I learned that there was additional. And immediately when she got a hold of me on the phone, I wrote the letter that she requested and sent it that day. And got it right out. Let's see. What other issues are there?
In your defense as well as, yeah, because we worked together a long time. And the thing is that way back when, it wasn't very common that we did a second extension. And now it's
Which
funny.
I'm not faulting you at all on any of this. I'm just saying that was what I heard and that's what I understood and that's what I acted on. And the point is, and I put that in the letters, both for the first extension and I elaborated it on the second extension request. There were extenuating circumstances that was not able to be adjusted for. I mean, how often do you say, okay, I'm going to plan for cancer and be out for 12 weeks for radiation? At the same point, the new employee that was hired had no more organizational skills than a pack rat. So when we discovered coming back and preparing the documents for the audit, and that's in the letter that we submitted, bank recs weren't done. filing wasn't completed. And you'll see that in our audit filings. And we found great holes in miscoding. So from the time I got back from radiation to the time we prepared the reports for the auditors, we redid everything to make it clean and accurate and complete so that the auditors could do a good job and prepare the audit and submit it. I did apologize to Carrie because I should have given her a call. I was in the middle of tax season. I didn't think about it because I knew the audit was being done. The information had been submitted to the auditor. We were waiting on her. She was going to have it prepared and ready for us on February 26th, but she called prior to that, said that she had some difficulties and she wouldn't be able to get it done later. My comment to her would have been my comment to anybody else. Just make sure it's complete and accurate, and it's a good representation of what the Fair and Rent Board did that year. So she finished the audit. The very next, we only meet once a month. The very next meeting of the board, we had the audit, presented it, and according to our promise to Carrie, not only did I email her the audit report the night of the meeting, following the meeting, we had Steele and Associates hand deliver 2 copies to the Department of Taxation the next morning, the day after. So pretty much that's kind of it.
Let's talk about the future now.
Okay.
Do I have assurance and promise that in the future, we will not have a duplication of what happened this year?
That was the main audit, I think, right? The main problem in the audit report.
Right, we need
Yes.
an open line of communication.
Yeah, well, and that we had the problems that existed and didn't get them reconciled quicker or discovered quicker. I don't plan on having cancer again. They said I'm clean. So that part's done.
Anyway, if you cannot do an audit by a deadline, I want to promise that you will have an extension request into the department.
I will give you my promise. I now understand. And I won't go past the April 15th or request any. Actually, I should never need more. I hope to never need any. So to address the main issue that happened last year that we don't want to repeat, so I give you this promise. One is that we're already training somebody to kind of take over and replace me. I'm going to be over 70 here real soon. I've been with the convention center for 41 years, so they really rely and trust me in what I do on behalf of the board. And I don't want to violate that trust. At the same time, I need to get slowed down. And we've hired somebody that comes in on every Thursday and every Tuesday to assist the new employee that was hired by the director so that she can keep things organized and in proper sequence and prepared timely, in fact, every month or every week and every day so that it's prepared for the auditor. And between those two, then yeah, I can give, as long as I'm there, I can give you my promise that they'll be filed or letters of extension filed timely. And that they won't go past, because I agree with your concern. And I think this came up once many years ago that Carrie mentioned to me that was a problem of extending too far, is that you didn't have the current budget or the current audit report to prepare your budget with. But that hasn't been a problem. And it wasn't a problem in this case. We were done early enough.
You know, I think you're aware of this. Of course, there's a great comfort in following exactly what the law says. And when you don't do that, then it opens up a whole range of other things. And I think you know that, and let's just be sure you do that.
Oh, I agree with you. I mean, so is integrity and honesty. I mean, you never have to worry about anything if you're honest and you apply things with character and integrity. You move forward and you don't have to worry about what the past or the future is going to be because it's very visible and upfront.
I'm familiar with this business about getting older.
Yeah. Yeah.
Kelly.
Quick question, for the record, Kelly Langley, Supervisor, Local Government Finance. Kendall, can you give us a status of your budget? Was it filed timely? And does that budget that was filed for the 25-26 fiscal year that was due April 15th, does that have, and does it reflect the numbers from the audit?
Yes,
And Carrie.
was filed timely, and it includes the audit report in the budget in that column.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair. Member Gina Rackley, purposes of the record. Mr. Swenson, I was just wondering, in your findings, although you weren't noted as a significant deficiency, it was noted as a weakness that there were, duplicate deposits that were entered and your bank reconciliations weren't done in a timely manner that caught the $87,432 duplication. The measures you spoke about, do you feel like that's corrective of that?
Yeah, the individual that comes in on Tuesday and Thursday is focused on just the bank recs to start with. And we pretty much had her take them over so that this person can focus on the structure, on what has to come first before you actually do this. Because she would, like it mentioned in there, she would not record her deposits in the books. She would just slip them through the machine and send them to the bank. Then when she go to reconcile, it would take her 4 or 5 hours to reconcile, and she wouldn't have enough time to finish them. So we've already caught up all the bank recs to this date, and this gal is going to stay on till the end of June to make sure all the bank recs are done for the audit while we train this gal how to be more organized. Same time, we also the director hired another person that came in and took all the data that hadn't been filed appropriately into vendor files and customer files and file them correctly so that they're prepared for the auditor. Because that was another big issue we had a stack of paper like that with vendors and deposits and everything was this high. And some of them, she didn't even have a printout of the checks that she deposited so that we could make sure they were appropriate. So we had to go back and reconstruct those for the auditor. So yes, it is being, and it was addressed. Well, you were listening on the meeting. So when the board asked me, well, are we doing anything about that audit finding that you just read? I had already met, first the auditor gave me the report so that I could review it. And she told me about the findings. So I met with the director, Kim Peterson, and we came up with this plan on how the additional individuals come in and assist and make this difference so that this audit here would go more smoothly. Because Kim Peterson's going to retire sometime soon. I would like to retire sometime soon, and we want to leave it clean and organized before we do. But yeah, they are caught up and done.
Any other comments or questions from members of the committee?
Mr. Chair, I did have one more additional question or concern, and I'm not sure if this is the right time and place, but in regards to this, I was looking for minutes and agendas on your website. And I know that we are supposed to have websites that for public access, and I wasn't able to, I saw where you had the minutes and agendas and meetings, but I also, you had to click into something and sign up for something, and it wasn't
Yeah, no, it wasn't very
readily
friendly.
available. Yeah.
Mr. Peterson had noted that, and he hired a firm to come in and redesign the web page.
Okay.
And it was discombobulated for a little while the firm was going through it. And our auditor was having problems. We had to have the more current minutes so that she could, part of the audit process, go past the audit period and have to read all the minutes. So she could get access to them. We had to send them to her because the firm that is redesigning that webpage hadn't had those click marks ready for her. So yeah, no, we were working on that. That should be done shortly. I asked him the other day.
Okay, I was just concerned because I know that there's different laws and for transparency reasons.
And we're doing a lot of.
Supposed to be able to just kind of click and be able to
pull
have
them up.
access.
Yeah, the firm is correcting that situation. That's doing the webpage design and reinvest. And we're switching over to make it easier for the future is we're rewriting the laws, and the county is going to see it soon. Mr. Maher will present it to the county and the city before June 30. Right now, our motels aren't required to submit the room tax till the 25th of the month following. And it creates a timing difference because they'll mail it the 25th, and Gina knows what mail's like in Winnemucca. It goes to Reno, then it comes back to Winnemucca, and it could be 2 weeks before we get it. So we've got timing difference from when the entities pay it and when we deposit it, and it creates bookkeeping problems. And especially for somebody learning the system. So we're moving the payment requirement to the 10th, and our webpage will have ACH payment alternative. So we don't have checks, and then we're going to basically go back to where they can't pay by check anyway. They'll only pay ACH. Then we get a good match with our monthly revenue with exactly the period that it belongs in. And we won't have a lot of this. That was one of the major problems in her 72,000 is some of them got double posted. So she would get the check, run it in the bank, not put it in the book till the next month. And we'd have it recorded in the first month and the second month, and we had to reverse one of them out. After we finished up with bank recs, that became very evident. But yeah, that's being developed in that system also. So it should help for the future financial reporting a lot.
When you finish development of that, could you
Yeah, I'll let Carrie know.
let her know?
Yeah, I'll put it on the agenda. Either I or Shauna, which is Kim Peterson's assistant, will get a hold of you and let you know.
Okay, thank you. It's just supposed to,
Yeah, it is
it's
hard.
supposed to be transparent so that you could,
Yeah.
I had a hard time searching even for your board chairman. Because I couldn't.
If you
see
have
your minutes.
any questions finding anything, just call Shauna.
Okay.
Because the only time I ever get in there is when the auditor asks me to go in and get her something because she can't find it. So I have to call Shauna, find out how to locate it and ship it.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, anything else? Thank you.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Next item on the agenda, Reno Sparks Convention and Visitors Authority.
Hey, Mr. Chairman. Just before we start this item, I don't anticipate there will be any action, but RSCVA is a client of ours, and so I'd be abstaining from anything that we do on this.
Thank you.
For the record, we have Kelly Grant, budget analyst, who manages Washoe County and therefore Reno Sparks Convention Authority.
Thank you. Kelly Graham for the record. So from our understanding, we are not going to be receiving the FY24 audit from Reno Sparks Convention and Visitors Authority until 6/25/25. And just a little history of the audit extension process. November 26, 24, they submitted a request for an extension to January 30th, 2025. Their reasons was an unexpected retirement of their accounting manager, the vice president of finance providing care for her mother, and the vice president of finance and faced significant health challenges. We did issue them an extension on December 9th, 2024, which gave them until December 31st, 24 to submit to their board and due to us no later than January 31st, 2025. January 30th, we received the second extension request to March 31st. February 3rd, after trying to call several times, I sent an email to call me to discuss the extension, that we only give extensions for 30 days and to talk about the extenuating circumstances. On February 24th, I sent out another email stating that I had tried many times to call and could not give an extension because I had questions about the extension letter. And then on March 5th, I emailed and said we needed to set up a specific time to call because we kept missing each other. March 18th, I asked again what a good time would be to call. March 19th, we finally had a discussion on Zoom with Courtney Jaeger, Kelly Langley, and me, and we discussed updating the letter so I could approve it. March 19th, I received an email from Courtney where she emailed the letter from January again. She also stated that she reached out to their contact at the actual firm and left a voicemail that she would keep me posted. March 27th, I emailed asking if she was able to update the extension letter. On April 7th, I sent an email stating I had not received an updated extension letter or any word on when the audit would be completed. April 8th, we got an updated letter for an extension, and they wanted the extension deadline to be June 25th, 2025. April 9th, I emailed asking to have a quick discussion. Courtney emailed me on April 10th. She emailed me asking if Thursday on 4/17 would work for a call. I was also informed her on that day that she would need to prepare a presentation to CLGF on April 29th because of their audit being so late. On April 16th, Courtney had sent the final extension letter to CLGF. And from my understanding, Courtney Jaeger and Ben Kennedy are on Zoom to answer any questions.
Okay, let me ask a question. Is this having the audit after the date, is this fairly common with this entity?
This is the first time for
It's
this.
the first time for them. Thank you.
This is Mark Paris with McMullen McPhee. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, we were here to talk about the Baker Sewer and Water, and I know you've moved on from that item, but we had our hand raised and we were never acknowledged. So I guess we could stay on and talk about that after this agenda item, if that's okay with you.
You can talk, I want to go through this agenda item, and when this is completed, I will allow you to make some comment.
Okay, thank you very much. I just want to make sure you could hear us.
We have someone from the Convention and Visitors Authority.
Good morning, Courtney Jaeger, Vice President of Finance for the Reno Sparks Convention and Visitors Authority.
Could you repeat your name, please?
Courtney Jaeger, Vice President of Finance for the Reno Sparks Convention and Visitors Authority.
Go ahead with any comments.
All right, well, good morning. I'd like to begin by responding directly to the introduction from the Department of Taxation. Then I'd like to discuss the circumstances relative to our extension request today. In accordance with NRS 354, we submitted our initial required extension letter to the Department of Taxation. An updated extension letter was sent on January 31st, addressed to Ms. Graham. I received an email from Ms. Graham on February 3rd requesting a phone call. I replied to her email on February 3rd and let her know I would call her on February 4th. I made 2 attempts to call her and left voicemails both times. On February 24th, while I was out of the office, I received an email from Ms. Graham. This was the first communication I had received subsequent to the voicemails. Ms. Graham later sent a follow-up email on March 5th, which indicated that she had received my out-of-office reply from February 24th. I replied to Ms. Graham when I returned to the office on March 6th. I received a response from her on March 18th. On March 19th, I participated in a phone call with Kelly Langley and Kelly Graham from the Department of Taxation to discuss transparently the unforeseen issues that caused a delay in our audit. Following that conversation, I left a voicemail for Ms. Graham requesting a callback so I could provide her an update on the status of our audit. On April 7th, I received an email from Ms. Graham stating that she had not heard from me. I responded the next day on April 8th, providing both a written update and a revised extension letter as requested. On April 8th at 4:30 p.m., I received a calendar invitation from Ms. Graham for a meeting scheduled at 10 a.m. the next morning. I responded expressing appreciation for the invitation, but noting that I had a prior commitment at that time. On April 10th, I was informed that I would need to make a presentation to the committee today. And on April 16th, I submitted an updated extension letter to the committee, incorporating the most current and relevant facts for inclusion in today's meeting. I would like to direct the committee's attention to page 76 of the meeting packet, which includes the formal letter we submitted as support for this meeting. This letter outlines the most relevant information regarding the current status of our required external audit. We were unable to issue our financial report on time due to extenuating circumstances, none of which were related to inadequate care or planning by the RSCBA or our professional accounting firm. Therefore, this extension was requested in accordance with the requirements of NAC 354.375. Regarding the most relevant reason for the delay at this time, the employee responsible at the RSCBA for overseeing the completion of the OPEB actuarial valuation was suspended and subsequently resigned following violations of RSCBA personnel policies. These issues were detected through our internal control processes. Prior to the employee's departure, this employee was tasked with completing the required employee census and securing a draft of the actuarial valuation. These duties fell within their regular assigned responsibilities. Unfortunately, that employee made misrepresentations regarding the status of these tasks. Upon their departure, it was discovered that the necessary work had not been completed. This directly caused delays in obtaining our actuarial valuation as we missed the window originally scheduled by the firm to perform the procedures. Once the issue was identified, we acted quickly to complete the required work and provide the necessary information to the actuarial firm. However, actuarial firms operate on long lead times, so the missed window caused unavoidable delays, both with that firm and our professional audit firm. I would also like to provide the committee with an update on our progress since the submission of our letter, since we were informed that we could not provide updates for the packet after April 16th. We have since received a draft of the OPEB actuarial valuation. We've completed our internal review of the draft, and we have provided the actuary with comments and questions, which they are currently addressing. We're also coordinating with our external auditor regarding the completion of the remaining audit procedures, and we followed up with them yesterday. We expect an update on their available scheduling windows shortly. I'd also like to emphasize that operationally, there's been no impact on the RSCBA as a result of this delay. We submitted our fiscal year 2026 tentative budget to the Department of Taxation timely, and we will submit our final annual budget for fiscal year 2026 timely as well. In addition, we consulted with our bond advisor, who confirmed that this delay will have no negative impact on our debt disclosure requirements. So I appreciate the committee's time and consideration today in reviewing our extension requests and the circumstances surrounding it. I can provide any additional information if required or answer any questions that you have at this time.
I think if you've been listening to this meeting, you've heard what my feelings are about these multiple extension requests. And this last one puts you within 5 days of the end of the current fiscal year, which is 5 days short of being a year from when your last year closed. And I know you've got a lot of excuses and everything, but I'm just not thrilled about it. You know, you're asking for an approval of the extension requests, and maybe some of the members of the committee are more generous about that than I am, but just for me personally, I would not be granting it. I would put you in violation. I don't know. Can any members have any other comments? Tom?
Mr. Chairman, Tom Szynski for the record. For Courtney, could you give us an update of what communication on this matter you've had with the CEO of the RCBA or the Commission Authority, and also the board?
Absolutely. So the board is fully informed, as is the CEO. Both myself and our legal representation, Ben Kennedy, had those conversations. And they, as similar to the RSCBA, our concern is with ensuring that our audit report is issued accurately. The RSCBA has not received an audit finding in the last 3 years, which is something that we're very proud of. And so we are in alignment with both management and board oversight that the importance is on having an accurate audit issued.
Mr. Chair, Tom Szynski again. Like you, I'm sympathetic to the issues that the finance team here has run into, but the communication doesn't seem to be as strong as I think we all would like in terms of trying to address this problem. So I too, like you, Mr. Chairman, am concerned.
Any other comments from members of the committee? Kelly.
For the record, Kelly Langley, Supervisor of Local Government Finance. Courtney, could you discuss your budget that was submitted, as you said, timely, and what numbers did you use for the, the beginning year of 20 is your 24 audits? So that, that's normally the budget analyst, that's the first step is they compare that to the audit, which unfortunately Kelly Graman does not have to be able to compare it to. So, we have to start with assumed, numbers. Can you give us an update on that? And is there anticipated to be any changes from the audit that is submitted when it's submitted? Is there a difference, I guess, between the numbers that are presented in the budget and the numbers that will be in the audit?
Yeah, thank you for that question. So regarding budgetary impact, the OPEB actuarial evaluation only affects the government-wide financial statements and does not impact fund level statements. So as such, we are confident in the numbers we submitted in our tentative budget to the Department of Taxation.
Let me just ask a question. Is there anyone on the committee that wants to make a motion to approve this request?
Paul Johnson. Member Johnson had his hand raised.
Oh, yeah, Paul.
Yeah, thanks, Chairman Levitt. I appreciate that. I'm not to make a motion, but I really, I was not going to say anything, but I wanted to follow up on Tom's comment because it's kind of a pet peeve of mine. And it kind of speaks to what I perceive as kind of a sense of insignificance to the local entity when the CEO or a board member does not come before the Committee on Local Government Finance on matters. They usually send the fiscal person as kind of the sacrificial lamb who isn't necessarily the person responsible for making the decisions, but provides the fiscal advice. And I would really like to see the chief executive officers attend these in the future so that they understand the significance of the issues that we're dealing with. And that's my only comment.
Thank you. Well, in the absence of a motion, I think that is pretty well clear where we are on that. Okay, let's go on to the next item now, which is back to the Incline Village General Improvement District.
Oh, Mr. Chair, just as a reminder, we had the gentleman from Baker who wanted.
Oh, yes, yes. Yeah, before we get it, let's do go ahead and sit down, but I would like the one from Baker to make the comments he wanted to.
Yeah, this is Mark Paris. I'm a CPA with McMullen, McPhee and Company, and we do the accounting for the Baker Water and Sewer GID. And I guess I want some clarification on the 2024 audit. So when we did receive a letter of exemption for the 2024 audit, because we did not anticipate going over the $300,000. However, due to the emergency, as pointed out by Terry Stedman, they went over the $300,000. However, if you exclude depreciation, they are not over the $300,000. So my question is do we need to now go through the process of hiring an auditor? Obviously, we're late on getting an audit submitted for the June 30, 2024 year. I can understand going forward that we may have to do an audit, but my question is we have an exemption letter for June 30th, 2024. Is that valid, or are you expecting us to go back and engage an auditor, go out to bid, do all of that for the 2024 year? And obviously, we would not meet the audit deadlines.
I believe the exemption letter states that it's conditioned upon the not exceeding the 300,000. When you exceeded the 300,000, then the exemption letter is not in effect.
Okay, well, so you want us to go back, so do we need to request an extension to get the audit done, or what's your recommendations on doing that, because it's now almost May 1st?
I think that definitely you need to request an extension, but I think what you need to do is have a discussion with the representatives from the Department of Taxation and work out an acceptable agreement.
Okay, yeah, well, when we talked to them back in March, they recommended that we come before your board and do this, request an exemption. And so
I
that's
think it's
kind of
pretty
where we're
obvious
at.
that we cannot grant you an exemption in violation of the statute. And so now the next step would be to arrange for an audit for that year. And the details of that just relates to extension requests and those things. I think you can deal with the department. I think that what we have done here today is indicate that we are not going to grant you any kind of exemption because it would be in violation of the statute. And now you simply go back and do what you normally would do.
Oh, all right. Well, we'll see if we can find an auditor. We did do some bids. I think someone mentioned that it only cost $10,000. We put out to bid involved with, and the audit cost ranged from $30,000 to $35,000. We did get one for $11,500, or no, $15,000. So the cheapest one we got for the TV district, the Elko County TV district, was $15,000. And this being a first-year audit, I'm sure it's going to be even higher than that, because that was a repeat audit. So it is going to be a substantial cost to the entity.
I think we might say that we feel for you, but there's nothing we can do.
Right. And there's also issues trying to find an auditor.
We cannot do something that would be in violation of statute.
I understand that, but it's also very difficult to find an auditor to go to Baker, Nevada.
I understand.
Mr. Chairman, this is Member Johnson. I'd be willing to reach out to the firm that audits the White Pine County School District in White Pine County to see if they could provide assistance with respect to the Baker Water and Sewer, and communicate that with Mr. Paris.
Who is that, Paul, that does your audit?
Hinton Burdick.
Okay. I believe we submitted a thing for that to them for the Elko TV district, but I appreciate any help that you could give us. I think they do some audits up here in Elko as well, but anyway, thank you for that, Paul.
Okay, now listen up.
All right, thank you, Ballot. Thank you all for letting me speak.
Okay, thank you.
For the record, my name is Kelly Gramman, budget analyst assigned to Incline Village. Just for information that we gave to this subcommittee, we received a letter dated February 19th, 2025 for the 4th extension for the annual audit. The 4th extension was given on March 4th. The letter promising the following dates: March 25th, submission to the board; March 26th, submission to the Department of Taxation. We're all disappointed that they were not able to get the audit done by the 4th extension. We did receive the 5th extension on 4/3/2025. But just to note, we have been meeting with IVGID weekly since February, and we receive updates on both the FY24 audit and the FY26 budget. They have been working to ensure the audit does not have a disclaimer opinion. It has been taken extra work for the employees of IVGID, for Baker Tilly, and the auditors from Davis Farr. The Department of Taxation made it clear we needed the audit, and IVGID will need this to ensure ability to get a new auditor. And we did receive the FY26 tentative budget as required by NRS, and once changes are made as recommended by the department. And in here we have Jessica O'Connell, Robert Harrison, and Trustee Chair Michaela Tonking, and Baker Tilly Naomi is on Zoom.
Good morning, Chair Levitt and Committee. For the record, Jessica O'Connell, Director of Finance for Incline Village General Improvement District. I would like to take this time to provide a brief snapshot and update on IVGID's financial progress. On January 17th, 2025, I was hired as the Director of Finance for IVGID. It has been a little over 3 months during which we have encountered several challenges and achieved significant milestones. During my tenure, IVGID has not been fully staffed. An incomplete, unvetted trial balance was submitted to Davis Farr back in October 2024. Since then, Davis Farr has processed over 70 journal entries, including some that introduced additional errors, as well as subsequent entries to correct those issues and address current analytical challenges. I bring experience in conducting audits for small to mid-sized municipal agencies, alongside extensive knowledge of ERP, enterprise resource planning, financial software. Moreover, I have firsthand experience in resolving issues from flawed software implementations. The past 3 months have been particularly demanding for the small district, which comprises 5 funds and has an annual budget of approximately $59 million. Despite the obstacles, we have made remarkable progress and are nearing completion of the financial statements, with strong hopes of receiving a modified opinion. Unfortunately, this progress has come at a cost of surpassing state-mandated deadlines that we really recognize. IVGID has been actively searching for a new CPA firm to engage for audits, but this process has been complicated by the disclaimer opinion. Many risk assessment teams are reluctant to accept IVGID as a client under such circumstances. Consequently, we are prioritizing compliance with GASB, GAP, GAS, and GAFR standards. Additionally, we acknowledge that Davis Farr has other clients besides IVGID and are working closely with both Baker Tilly and Davis Farr to finalize our audit. I anticipate that within 2 to 3 weeks, we should receive draft financial statements for review and finalization. We respectfully ask the state and the committee for their patience. IVGID has successfully completed Form 4404 on time or is currently in the process of finalizing certifications, i.e. Central Service Cost Plan, and feedback received has been positive, indicating that IVGID is in a much better position than in previous years. I would like to extend my gratitude to the state, particularly Kelly and Kelly, as well as the CLGF for their support and expertise in assisting IVGID to remain in compliance. Thank you for your time, and I am available to answer any questions.
I remember at the last meeting, there was an indication that there was a feeling, at least, that the request that came before us at that meeting would be sufficient to have the audit report. And of course, that did not turn out to be the case. What changed between that meeting and now that's required all these additional extensions?
So what we're finding is because of the disclaimer in 23, some things were left undone. And we're finding that the work that's taking place now to complete 24 involved wrapping up 23 to figure out the answers and the questions and answers raised for 24. So it's been taking a little longer than planned.
If we may, our chair has a few comments she'd like to make, and I just have a couple comments as well.
To address your question, my name is Michaela Tonking. I'm the chair of the IVGID board, for the record. I wanted to thank you all for being here, and I especially wanted to thank our subcommittee for the great help both they provided to our staff and to the board. We found them incredibly helpful in making sure. And to address your question, I think our GM, our general manager at the time, had made a decision to go with a disclaimer opinion. And at that point, he had left and our auditor or our financial director had also left. And so we then never ended up wrapping up the work for that audit. And so really, we were much further behind than we had ever understood until the GM and the new director of finance had both got on board and really had that expertise under their belt to address these issues. So as was mentioned, in order to not have another disclaimer, we have taken up a lot more time. So we apologize.
I think we've got a couple of things before us. Now, we got an extension request, this last one, that we need to give some consideration to. And as well as whether we place you under fiscal watch or not. You know, I view fiscal watch as not necessarily a punishment. On a practical basis, if we put you under fiscal watch, what actually happens is probably not too much different than what we've been doing anyway. You know, I don't know. But given our situation over the last couple of years, Gina been more involved for more than me, but it almost seems that we'd be almost remiss if we did not place you under fiscal watch, given the circumstances, which would essentially simply amount to the fact that we would be keeping track of you on a basis that exceeds what we normally would, given your past circumstances and the changes and such. I don't know necessarily view that as necessarily negative. Gina, you might want to comment on that too.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Gina Rackley, purposes of the record. I agree. I want to commend the group, the work that this group has done. Since being appointed on the subcommittee, we've had lots of phone calls and emails and Zoom meetings, and I agree with you. We have seen a lot of progress, but I think we would be remiss if we didn't put IVGID on fiscal watch. And as Chairman Levitt noted, what that does is allows us to continue to work with you, allows the department to continue to have those weekly check-ins, which I think has helped you as well as this committee.
Oh, it doesn't. Thank you, Chair and Vice Chair. I appreciate your comment, but I did want to just make a few opening comments
Introduce yourself.
as well. And thank you. I'll do that. My name is Robert Harrison. I'm the new general manager from IVGID. I started in January of this year. And I do just want to say a couple of things regarding the public comments, as well as what we'll be talking about regarding the district. But first and foremost, the district isn't hiding any public records. The district has met all those obligations. There was a Reuben Brown report that was mentioned earlier today. The best thing I can tell you about that is there was no fraud that was discovered. What there were 41 instances of potential opportunities unless we got our right records and procedures in place. So while people tend to throw fraud out very loosely or make email statements citing that very loosely, that has not, nor has it ever been proven to be the case at IVGID.
We're talking about problems with internal control rather than fraud.
Exactly. And I just want to make sure that's clear. And the biggest part of our problem has been the transition from the previous financial system to the Munis system. And even trying to fix some of the problems last year when we were trying to get to the audit, we discovered, as it was testified to, that we found more problems. And so we have spent the time since we last came to you back in January, diligently working to get our books in place, our procedures in place. We added additional resources by bringing Baker Tilly in to come in and do the work. And our biggest challenge to date right now has been time. And we feel, frankly, that if we had a little more time, our focus is to get a completed audit that meets expectations and standards. And I think we're very close to there. The open items list, which we go through with your staff at the state every week, we've made substantial progress on that as well. I think we're really close, and I hope for as long as my tenure ends up lasting, we'll never have to come in front of this committee again for a problem. I think we've made some excellent progress on solutions. I also want to say that, while they've talked about fiscal problems, just to reiterate what you said, Chair, we've had a reporting problem. We don't have a financial problem. We're not broke. We've got resources, I think, as reflected in the 414 that we submitted to 44. And I think we've got a good financial plan. And ultimately, in a democracy, which is what we have, the voters of Incline Village voted 75% for the 3 trustees that came in with a very clear mandate to come in and get everything fixed up and in place. And ultimately, that's who the trustees and I have to report to. And I think we feel pretty good about the progress that we are making and where we're going to end up here as we start the new fiscal year in July. We're working hard to get a new auditor in place. We've got to get that issue taken care of regarding the what happened last year, but I think we're in progress there. You want to say a few things
and
as
I
well?
think just to add to the board is also to speak for them. We are also very engaged. I have a background in governmental finance and accounting. I do school funding formulas for states across the country. And then we have a former chief accounting officer for Procter & Gamble, who's usually here instead of me. And then we have a lawyer and HR professional for the US Senate and someone with utilities experience. So we are very engaged in making sure that we are moving in the right direction. And that is something that we've been very lucky as the board also to have members of the subcommittee assess that, help us with any decisions we're making and making sure that we aren't running into these same issues again as well. So we're very appreciative of that.
Thank you.
I'd like to add that Jessica O'Connell, Director of Finance for IFGID, for the record. I just would like to add that I also have over 17 to 20 years of government experience, and I am proud to have that experience. And in my tenure, what I have noticed is the decrease of that government accounting expertise. And alongside of bringing IFGID back to where they need to be and to stay in compliance, I also want to plan on succession planning and teach the next generation government accounting. And so I really want to be a coach and a mentor to our team, and they're really excited to really expand in those areas with the ERP system and government accounting. So I just wanted to add that in no way, shape, or form do we ever want to be in this position ever again and have budget and audit requirements at the same time. So it means fast speed right now, but we'll get there. And I'm really confident with the resources that we have and the training and the expertise that we can get there.
So just
Thank
to
you.
finish, thank you, Robert Harrison, the GM from IFGID. Like I said, I think we're very close to finishing. Our goal is to get a good and accurate financial statements and a completed audit for 2024. And we look forward to the future. If the committee decides to put us on fiscal watch, our new goal will be to set the record to get off of fiscal watch the most quickly that we possibly can. I think we've been working closely with your team here at Tax to accomplish that. So ultimately, we're here to accept whatever the committee decides to address us with, and then we hope we'd have direction on how to get off fiscal watch now that we've been put on, and that we can make sure we meet those objectives. Thank you for your consideration of our comments today.
Seems to me, and Regina's been involved with it more than me, but it seems like we can do 2 things maybe today. One is recommend that you go on fiscal watch. And 2 is that I think we can perhaps approve this final extension request, given what I understand is your efforts to make it. Now, let me be clear, however, if we do not receive an audit by this date on this last request, I'm going to be very unhappy that we've gone out on a limb, so to speak, for you to do this, and we want to see results. Can I make myself any more clear than that?
Understood.
Yeah, yes. Let's go to the other members of the committee now.
Mr. Chairman, this is Tom Szynski for the record. I agree with your comments. I also appreciate the work that Gina and team have put forward. So based on that discussion, I would move that we put Incline Village Improvement District on fiscal watch and grant the extension for the audit.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Yeah, this is member Paul Johnson. I will second.
Do we have any discussion on the motion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay. I think you know where you stand now.
Yep. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Let's go to the,
Excuse me, real quick, Jessica, before you and your team leave. Being put on fiscal watch, that allows the committee, subcommittee, to be able to better help you. But it also allows us an ability to provide and request certain reports. And I really think, being the situation that you found yourself in, and we still don't have that audit, to be able to help with the bank reconciliation reports, completion of work papers, where it's one thing to know that you're almost finished with this audit, albeit May, but in 1 month, you're done with 2025 year as well. So you haven't had much time. You're struggling to get those work papers done for the current auditor, but you have a whole year of work papers that have to get caught up and updated, as well as, working on that 25 audit. So those are some of the reports that I would like to be able to encourage the committee to request the department to ensure that we're getting, because I don't want 2025's audit to be as late as it was, as we're experiencing right now with the 24. But those are some of the reports, Mr. Chairman, that, we were looking at, as well as looking at the cost allocation review, to ensure that the auditors are comfortable with that cost allocation prior to any changes that your board, local government board, may be looking to do. I think that cost allocation is critical for you.
Jessica O'Connell, Director of Finance for IFGID, for the record. Yes, as we speak, we have hired Baker Tilly to assist with the staff deficiencies in the interim and being conscientious of budget constraints. And we will open up recruitment for empty positions in July with the new budget. In the interim, Baker Tilly is working on the central service cost analysis, and they are very familiar with Nevada revised statute and the Nevada administration code. They have actually were ahead of the game and said that they will be presenting that analysis probably by the end of this week, if not next week. So we will have that dialed in. And that Baker Tilly, the other team, is working on the bank reconciliations for fiscal year 25 and to keep us caught up and to help finalize fiscal year 25. But yes, we can provide whatever reporting necessary. So we're trying to keep the ball rolling so that we're not, having budget and audit at the same time.
Record Kelly Langley, again, local government finance supervisor. So that central service cost analysis is going to be completed by Baker Tilly prior to your budget meeting, which is May 20th or whatever date you choose between May 19th and May 31st, correct?
Yes, the last email I received, Jessica O'Connell, Director of Finance for the record, was a promise of the end of this week. I am going to check in with them when I get back to the office to see if we're still on the same timeline. But for now, that was the plan.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
okay, let's go on to the discussion of audit summaries now.
For the record, again, Kelly Langley, local government finance supervisor. The audit studies report, or the audit report, has been provided to all the members and the chairman. It's located just behind the local government entities. Information, I'd like to give a huge scream out. Kelly Graman, as well as the other budget analysts, worked hard to make sure that we had this and we were able to provide it very timely. It does reflect the counties, the cities, and the school. So you have not only the data information, but then also the graphs representing the expenditures, the revenue, and compare it. So you can basically compare if it's schools, you can look at, one school district versus another, what their beginning fund balances are. It does have, I always find it very helpful. I think, we've seen more prior year adjustments. And so on the ones where we may have, I think it was, Kelly, help me recall, there's one where we have a negative. And it's like, how can you have a negative? We don't do that. But it's because of a prior year adjustment.
Yeah, it was.
Which school? Wasn't it one of the schools?
Grammon for the record. It's because of timing. That and I have a note if there's anything, an asterisk and a note on anything that's not.
Was it the schools or the county?
I think it was the school. No, I'm sorry, it was city, Caliente.
Caliente. So if we go to, I'm trying to tell the members the page number. That's how. The cities is in section 4, begins on page 173. And when you look at it provides the graphs, but sorry, at the very beginning of the book, we have, Caliente on page 3 of the graph, you'll see that Caliente has negative FY23 ending fund balance, and then they go to just slightly over positive for FY24. And then in the comments for Caliente, when you look at the actual numbers, it sorry, I should have had these. The cities aren't alphabetical, so I don't have it.
It's on page 122. And it's the deficit net position due to unavailable grant revenues not received within 60 days of year end.
And so because of that, that's 673,000 that's represented and highlighted in the data. We also added that comment regarding that deficit net position and the fact that that grant information was not available by the end of their audit year, 60 days after. Other than that, I think, we've seen the balances improve in general as far as the overview. But we're ready to take any questions you guys may have or the members may have in regard to this report.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Gina.
Gina Rackley, purposes of the record. Again, I would like to commend the department for these graphs. I enjoy getting them every year. I know they're a lot of work, but I keep these. They are a great tool. I just want to comment 2 things on fund balances. It'll be interesting to see now that the ARPA funds have pretty much wrapped up how really has affected ending fund balances. And just a little concerned with Mineral County's declining fund balance.
I believe as in regard to Mineral County, for the record, Kelly Langley, Supervisor, Local Government Finance. We actually have a call scheduled with Mineral County to discuss that because we're very worried about that for their budget for 25-26. So.
Yeah, it'll be interesting now. I think probably we're looking at the potential, at least, of a recession. We've seen some statistics around the state that indicate we've seen drop in gaming revenue and a drop in sales tax revenue, at least from the state level. So I imagine that will affect local government too.
Potential drop in CTX.
Yeah, and so it's going to be interesting to see how all of us do in that regard if we do go into a recession. Any comments or questions from members of the committee? Yes, Marty.
For the record, Marty Johnson. Kelly, like others, I appreciate all of the work there's a ton that goes into this. But my guess is this is less than half of the governmental entities that we have in the state, because we don't have special districts, fire districts, GIDs, et cetera, listed in here. I guess what I'm wondering is, in addition to Mineral County, are there other governments that maybe aren't on this list that you guys are starting to see some concerns for?
Thank you for the question. In regard to the other entities, Mineral County has come to my attention even prior to the meeting, but to discuss their very low ending and beginning fund balances. As far as the other districts, we do have a few that are very, very small districts. And, those districts have come back to the department asking, what else they could be doing to increase funds or their, balances. Some of them, it's the timing, again. But in looking at that, whether they go back to their counties to look for additional funding, some of the grants that are out there, that's really kind of the direction we've been looking and understanding, is there headroom in their tax rates? There are quite a few of the counties that are at 366 for the property tax when you look at the combined tax rate. And so there's no ability to change that. But in general, I think Caliente was the one of primary concern at this time. But thank you for your question.
Any other comments about this item before we go on to the next item? Is possible action, review, and approval of minutes. We have a motion regarding approval of the minutes.
Do we need to take these meetings separately? Can we?
Yes.
I'll make a motion that we accept the Committee of Local Government Finance meeting from January 22nd, 2025 minutes as presented.
Marty Johnson will second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay. Now the subcommittee. Probably one of the members of the subcommittee would be good to make a motion on this.
Mr. Chair, Jeffrey Scher, I will make a motion for the subcommittee meeting minutes for April 4th, 2025.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Josh.
Gina second. Oh,
No, where does it say Josh?
oh, okay.
We'll let Josh second.
I'll second. Thank you, Josh Foley.
Okay. Any discussion on the minutes? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Anyone opposed? For possible action, schedule date and review agenda topics for the next meeting. Kelly and I had a discussion about probably have the meeting somewhere between the middle of July and the first week in August or thereabouts. Does that sound like that would be reasonable for most of you?
Yes.
By then we ought to have all of the budgets in. We would have hopefully the last of the audits in. And I think definitely we want an update from the Incline Village to where they stand on everything. I would like to have a discussion about these audit extension reports that I had mentioned earlier. Anybody else have any other items, right? Yes.
Yes, Mr. Chair, Jeffrey Scher for the record. I don't know whether this needs to be a topic or not. It might be something that Kelly could just provide us. But after going through this item with Baker Water, I don't know how many entities are out there that qualify for this 300,000 exemption. And I'm wondering if maybe we need to know how many are out there, and maybe we need to have some sort of form of communication with them to explain to them what happened with Baker. If you are going out for grants, what could possibly occur, give that some consideration regarding audit requirements and any other requirements that may result thereof. I don't want to discourage anyone for going out for something, but I think they need to be prepared to know what's going to happen if if they meet this threshold.
Thank you, Member Chair. For the record, Kelly Langley, Supervisor, Local Government Finance. We were just looking at that yesterday to explain or provide information as to how many local governments, at least for 2026, had applied for this exemption. There is approximately 35 local governments, which is a small number when you figure we are just under 300 local governments in total. But those, I would say there's probably 2 counties where we have a large number of amendments, because there's Douglas County and Humboldt. Douglas County, we have a very large number of GIDs because they're very small general improvement districts. And they also have a very small level of expenditures. In addition to that, Humboldt County also has a large number of small local governments that are actually managed at the county level. But the county, if their expenditures are under 300, then they apply for that exemption as well. And for that, quite a few of those are GIDs, yes, TV districts, pest and weed. We have 5 or 2 that are TV districts in the entire state, and then like 20 of them are GIDs. And then from there we have, a couple library districts, handful, and some other small ones, but it is small. There's also, I can't recall the number, but there's also some legislation that's out there, whether, what the future holds for it, but that legislation may even eliminate the ability to have these local governments request exemptions. So that's currently out there. I apologize, I don't have the number, but I can send it to you after the meeting, just so that you're aware of the legislation.
No, it's totally understandable. And I think the thing is I don't know how long 300,000 has been in law. And I guess we just have to realize maybe 300,000 is an unreasonable number, given consideration of the current economic situation and the way costs are. So just something to think about. Again, no, I didn't expect that you would have that. And I think it's just something that we should keep on our radar. And I don't know whether communication needs to happen, because I would hate for a bunch of these places to fall into a Baker situation where they could go over by a few dollars and it could cost them a lot. But again, it's a challenge because I don't want them to not pursue revenue, especially considering what happened in Baker.
I believe that the limit, the 200, or which is now 300,000, was previously 200,000 back in, I want to say maybe 2020, and it was changed at that time to increase to 300,000. I'm not sure how comfortable we are with local governments spending more than 300,000 without having some type of an audit to provide, so as to ensure, some form of transparency as well as comfort to those potential taxpayers that are paying into those local governments that are so small.
Mr. Chair, can I add to that? Gina Rackley, purposes of the record. And thank you, Kelly. I would like to just add to that I know there was some questions if they could remove depreciation from calculating that expense. If these major projects in Baker are going to add significant capital to that system, that depreciation is going to be significant. And those audits could be for years and years past just by calculating in the depreciation.
Correct. Well, and if they are thrown into a situation where they have to have an audit, the other concern is that what auditor is going to provide that audit and be able to look back? What kind of records do they have of some of that information?
Correct.
Because that first year may be very expensive because they don't have a lot of the documents that they're going to require in order to provide that.
They don't have a
opinion
prior year audit to
to lean
base their
on.
beginning balance on too, yeah. Anything else to think of right now that you'd like on the next meeting? Anyone?
Legislative update.
Yes, yeah, oh, yeah, Kelly just mentioned to me a legislative update, and that would be good. Because by then the legislature will be out of session and we can get an update as to what legislation's passed relates to local government finances in particular. There is legislation relates to this committee in particular. It's, I don't know where that stands exactly right now.
I'm sorry.
SB 78.
Oh, the board, is that the boards and commissions?
Right.
Yes, so Yvonne Navarro's puts in for the record. That bill has been substantially amended at this point, and so any reference to the Committee on Local Government Finance is anticipated to be amended out of that bill. The focus of the amendment was to rely primarily on the Title 54 professional licensing boards as the first layer of boards that would be affected, and so that bill is still working its way through as amended. And then it's my understanding there will be an interim study on other boards and commissions and how they might fit into that more centralized role.
Yeah, and that bill as it originally was presented, it would reduce this number of members of this committee substantially, and I think that would have been a real mistake.
Yeah, thank you for that feedback, Mr. Chair. Again, Yvonne Navarro's puts in for the record. I'd be happy to, put an agenda item on with this committee as that interim study comes back forward, so that we can certainly provide that input and direction to that advisory body that will be looking at.
Okay,
Be good.
that sounds good. Thank you. Anything else now, members of the committee, before we go to public comment? Okay, public comment?
Mike Wright, Crystal Bay. I'd like to commend the board for taking action that's necessary. You actually had no choice. They left you no choice. And the issue I have is that the finances are so screwed up. The budgets are so screwed up. Their accounting is so screwed up. I don't think they can fix it. And the time came when you had to take action. You gave them as much leeway as you possibly could. But the issue that we have is this illegal tax called the recreation tax. They say fee, they call it everything else. It hasn't been reconciled in 50 years. Their method of assessment has not been reconciled in 50 years. Do you understand that there are buildings that have been built? There's foundations and structures, there are people living in with bathrooms and meets all the criteria for a structure. And they assess the poor people 75 rec fees at an apartment building. And right across the street, there's a house with 3 building structures on it that house people that have bathrooms, kitchens, and they'd have 1 rec fee, 1 parcel, 1 rec fee, across the street, 75 rec fees for 1 parcel. They haven't reconciled this in 50 years. They haven't even looked at it. And it's not the state or the county's building department to inform them. It's up to the district to go out and investigate how many dwelling units there are, how to assess this fee. They want to raise the fee now to $1,250. They don't have a budget. What are they basing that fee on? What are they charging us for? Why are they charging that this amount of money? And they're going to bring this up in the May 28th board meeting. They can't do that. You have no understanding of what you're charging people for. You're assessing the people in town this fee, and those poor people, it's going to be astronomical. They're going to have to move out of town. They won't be able to pay their rents. This is a community that has been operating willy-nilly for a long time. You've gotten some of the insights to what's going on. But I think it's your job, one, to look at this recreation tax and find out if it's even legal. It's not. You can't assess something to some people and not to other people. And the facilities that they're using this money for are open to the public. You know, the ad valorem taxes should be paying for these things, not an assessment of people's property that really gives them, brings nothing to the property. So I hope this, while they're on fiscal watch, you take a look at these things. This is a criminal enterprise. Money is missing. The Reuben Brown report, they didn't even address it. They haven't even gone, they've left it alone. They just walked away from it. Procurement card fraud. That has been understood. That has been documented. There has been personal expenditures on those procurement cards. You guys haven't seen anything because they just forgot about it. They just kind of on forward without looking at it. That time, she say? Oh, okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Levitt. Judith Miller for the record. Thank you, members of the committee. I think the decision to put IVGID on fiscal watch is the correct one. And I know your focus has been on IVGID completing its audit and timely submitting its budget. However, I do think this body has additional powers to recommend further action regarding the tax or so-called facility fee. We hear about all these agencies around the state scrambling to find additional revenues. Is there anything that prevents them from having a facility fee? Why not? I think too, there are other considerations. The reporting from IVGID's various recreational venues, it hasn't been done since last October. Our citizens pay for whatever losses occur in these venues, and yet we get zero in the way of financial reporting. That's just not right. Unlike water and sewer districts that supply an absolutely essential service to the public, many of IVGID's recreational offerings are discretionary. I mean, we don't have to have 2 golf courses. We don't have to own a ski area. I mean, they're nice and maybe, people like them, but when they lose money and then you take the people in those little condos in the middle of town, and then you're forcing them to pay to subsidize the high-end golf course. I mean, we could have a very simple public course and that fee wouldn't be required. So please take a look at that facility fee. It's not right. And it's not necessary, and it just leads to all of the mismanaged facilities that you've seen and lack of reporting. They want to make it look like it doesn't cost much to run, so they don't hire enough people to do the accounting. They don't have a contracts manager. They don't have other positions that they really would need to have to run so many businesses. So that's all. I just ask that you please look at that fee. And it's just just don't wait for it to become a complete financial disaster because they don't maintain and run their businesses properly. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Aaron Katz, St. Clyde Village. Before I start, could the chairperson please share with the public what is this drop dead date for IVGID and its audit for 2024? I didn't hear a date.
You have a request for an extension that's in right now. Not certain as to the You know the date?
Kelly, do we have a date on that? We'll have a date on the extension before that gets approved.
Can I email you and you'll share it? Or, I mean, how is the public gonna know the day?
You don't email me, you can email the Department of Taxation.
Yeah, if you would please forward that email to our public information officer, we can get that information. to you.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much for putting Ivkin on fiscal watch. You haven't done enough. Ivkin can't secure an auditor. How much evidence do you need of that? The NRS says if they can't secure an auditor, the committee is to secure one on their behalf. That's what I asked the committee do. And we need one that's not going to be biased and on behalf of Ivkin. We need one that's going to tell the truth. Now, the committee keeps thinking there's going to be a 2024 audit. There's not going to be a 2024 audit. It's never going to happen. Why? Number one, you're not going to get an opinion from the auditor. Number two, you're not going to get findings of compliance with the NRS and the NAC. Both of those are required in the statute. It isn't going to happen. And here's the next predicament. You're not going to get a central services cost allocation plan. This committee suggested regulations in the NAC of what those plans are supposed to consist of. IVGIT has never complied with those regulations, and I predict they will not do so this time, which means you won't have a valid central services. Now, I provided evidence of the rec fee being a theft. That's what it is. They're stealing from the public. Look at the massive increase in these rec fees so they can accumulate net position and fund balance. That's the only purposes of it. The committee asked, what can we do for all of these little local governments throughout the state that are looking for new finance sources to get new funds? Well, you've got your game plan right here. All you have to do is call it a rec fee. You can charge whatever you want. There's no limit on it. Just add it to revenues and you don't have a monetary problem. Well, that's ridiculous. We all know that. But how come it's not ridiculous with IVGIT? And I suggest to you what we have is the city of Bell, California. That's what you've got in the Incline Village. We have a severe financial emergency. Who's stealing the money from us? It's the employees. The employees are foxes in care of the chicken coop. Have you looked at some of the salaries they're getting? They're the equivalent of a mosquito district, and you're paying their GM $300,000. You're paying their finance director over $220,000. We only get $4.4 million a year in taxes. And look at that money going out. You need to do a severe look at this. Thank you very much. Severe emergency.
We are adjourned.
Yeah, there's still a couple.
Oh, do we have,
on the line.
oh, we have some more? Okay.
I'm not hearing anything if it's my turn.
Raise your hand or hit star nine if you're on the telephone. Go ahead, Mr. Church.
Can you hear you? Your voice is awful light. Not very loud. I don't know if he heard you.
Go ahead,
This is
Mr.
Jeff Church. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
Okay, I think you're listening to me. I'm not sure. I'm not hearing anything on your end, so hopefully I'm not going to interfere, and I'm going to go ahead. The Nevada Department of Taxation has determined that the Reno Business Improvement District is a local government per NRS. The bid continues to operate as an alleged nonprofit 501c6. Quote, at a minimum, the Reno bid DMO is subject to the jurisdiction
of the department pursuant to the Local Government Budget and Finance Act pursuant to NRS 354-4741. For instance, the creation of a special assessment local improvement district pursuant to NRS 271 would appear to trigger budget reporting responsibilities for contracts associated with the expenditure of special assessment levies pursuant to NRS 354-5965, end quote. Likewise, NCOE and PERS have weighed in with opinions that detail the bid's unique position. The Reno bid lists no audit and the bid has refused to submit said documents to me. The bid's last IRS 990 is from 2022 and a note of extended to May 24, 2024, which is come and gone. The bid is listed under the Reno City CAFIR or ACFR under special assessments. I asked the CLGF to look into the Reno Downtown BID, aka Downtown Reno Partnership, to be sure that it does and complies with the city of Reno's or with the CLGF requirements. Their IRS 990 from 2021, line 19, part 6, states in part, Reno Business Improvement District's governing documents, conflict of interest policy, financial statements, and Form I-990 are made available to the public upon request. That has not happened. Also in their 99 filing, quote, did the organization have members or stockholders? And they reply, no. As most are aware, to be a 501c6, it requires membership as well as a common business interest. I do not understand how the bid can be a local government and a 501c6 advocacy nonprofit with no members receiving almost all revenue from the city via the county tax treasurer. Further, the so-called fees are based on property value and not a specific derived benefit as required by much of the case law. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Jungler, you can unmute yourself.
Yeah, this is Cliff Dobler from Incline Village. I just want to make a few points to have you guys thinking. And I'm pretty much on top of IVGID since I've been with it for probably 10 years studying it. But just recently, in the last year, IVGID spent $400,000 to do a master plan on the utilities, water and sewer, because nobody kind of knew what they were doing. And it was done in conjunction with IVGID staff. The conclusion was that over the next 5 years, the sewer system was needing $15 million and the water system was needing $37 million. So lo and behold, the budget comes out, and in the 5-year plan, it's only a fraction of what is needed. On water, 15 million, they only budgeted 5. On sewer, I'm sorry, that was sewer. On water, 37 million, they only budgeted 12. So what we're doing is we're just kicking the can down the road, which I don't agree with. But more importantly is they turn around and brag that they have the lowest utility rates in the Tahoe Basin. Well, yeah, sure, you can have the rates if you don't do anything. Meanwhile, we waited for 10 years on that sewer pipeline that was supposed to cost $23 million. I think it ended up somewhere around $63 million. So it's a function of bad management. And based on even this new board, when I look at bringing up this budget and knowing that they have a master plan, they're not even following that. And then a trustee asks the management, well, are most plans followed in other agencies? And they said no. He says, okay, we're fine with that. So good luck on wrestling with IVGID. Thank you.
Call for public comment. Please raise your hand if you're on Zoom or hit *9 if you're on the telephone.
Now we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.